Kamala Harris did her first solo interview with MSNBC. We're going to watch it and react to it.
But still, there are lots of Americans who don't see themselves in your plans. For those who say these policies aren't for me, what do you say to them?
Well, if you are hardworking, if you have the dreams and the ambitions and the aspirations of what I believe you do, you're in my plan. You know, I have to tell you, I really love and am so energized by what I know to be the spirit and character of the American people. We have ambition. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We can see what's possible. We have an incredible work ethic. But not everyone has the access to the opportunities that allow them to achieve those things.
Okay, sorry, I got to stop it right there. If anyone has watched Kamala Harris speak on the economy over the past couple of weeks, this is exactly what she has said every single time when someone asks her about her plan. Everyone has dreams, everyone has ambitions, everyone has goals in the economy. What are you going to do for them? That's what they want to know. She never gives the answer. It's always this answer, or that she's a middle-class kid. And she said that she was energized. She didn't look very energized to me. It looks like she's searching for words, like as if she really doesn't have a plan or doesn't really know what she wants to say.
But we don't lack for those things. But not everyone, you know, gets handed stuff on a silver platter. And so my vision for the economy, I call it an opportunity economy, is about making sure that all Americans, wherever they start, wherever they are, have the ability to actually achieve those dreams and those ambitions, which include, for middle-class families, just being able to know that their hard work allows them to get ahead, right? I think we can't and we shouldn't aspire to have an economy that just allows people to get by. People want to do more than just get by. They want to get ahead. And I come from the middle class. Look, my mother raised my sister and me. She worked hard. She saved up. By the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. And, you know, home ownership for too many people in our country now is elusive. You know, gone is the day of everyone thinking they could actually live the American dream. So part of my vision for the economy is let's deal with some of the everyday challenges that people face and address them with common sense solutions, such as affordable housing.
And obviously, because she is a Democrat, and Republicans do it now too, but mostly on the Democrat side, the solution is just more government. It's just more money spending. But if you're someone who doesn't know anything about savings, or if you have a spending habit, just like most people do in America, and then they said like something about 70% of people making under $100,000 lives paycheck to paycheck, and then like 60% people making under $1 million live paycheck to paycheck. It's pretty much the same thing. You make $1 million and you live paycheck to paycheck, you have a spending problem. But they don't want you to stop spending. They just want to give you more money. Just stop spending.
Over the last 4 years, there have been tremendous economic wins, and you've just laid out a big plan, but still.
Wow. She just laid out a big plan. She literally said nothing. MSNBC is already with the helping. We're like 2 minutes in.
Polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000. He lost manufacturing plants. Ask the auto workers how he lost auto plants. We have grown over 20 new auto plants. He has an agenda. Let's just deal with right now going forward, not to mention what happened in the past. He has an agenda that would include making it more difficult for workers to earn overtime. An agenda that would include cutting off access to small business loans for small businesses. An agenda that includes tariffs to the point that the average working person will spend 20% more on everyday necessities.
Well, the tariff thing, that is the people who Trump's kind of wrong about that. But the tariffs, the Chinese, whoever he puts the tariffs on, the American people pay the tariffs. It's like another tax. But we could have a whole system on tariffs. Just give the people their money back. Stop taxing the income, right? She's about to say, I think she just said something about $4,000, or she's about to say it because I kind of already watched it. But if you have $4,000 worth of tariffs, right? Why don't you just give them that money back by not taxing their income? You'll have so much more money. Just stop taxing their income. But consumers pay the tariffs.
And an estimated $4,000 more a year on those everyday necessities, to the point that top economists in our country, from Nobel laureates to people at Moody's and Goldman Sachs, have compared my plan with his and said my plan would grow the economy, his would shrink the economy. Some of them have actually assessed that his plan would increase inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. So
all the economists that she's talking about, they're all left-leaning. Like, all these banks are left-leaning. There's so much socialism in the banking industry. It's crazy. That's what a bank bailout is. That's socialism. Okay? Like, there's so much socialism going on right now in the banking sector. That's crazy. She said that his plan would invite inflation when he's talking about cutting spending, but her plan is more spending. That's actual inflation. So she's lying.
Facts remain that Donald Trump has a history of taking care of very rich people. And I'm not mad at anybody for...
I'm sorry, I keep stopping it. Literally, the Trump tax cuts, they helped everyone. From the bottom to the top. Helps everyone. So she's about to start lying here. Again, more Democrat talking points.
Being rich, but they should pay their fair share. But tax cuts for the billionaires and the top corporations in our country. And then not really paying much attention to middle-class families. My perspective on the economy is when you grow the middle class, America's economy is stronger. And there's empirical evidence to prove my point correct.
That's true.
Well, let me ask you about...
That's true. America had the biggest and best middle class, which made it the richest country in the world. But they did it by producing things. She's talking about giving people money. You cannot just give people money and expect richness to just happen. People have to know about money first. You have to have not these spending habits. You have to have production. She wants to give away money. That's not going to do anything for the middle class but make them poor and make everyone else poor because it's inflation.
Taxes, because lots of people will say, I don't like Donald Trump, but he cut my taxes. He didn't just cut corporate taxes, he cut individual taxes. Now that expires next year, and there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, are you going to lift that cap?
So first of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up.
I'm so sorry. That's a huge lie. Ever since Biden said that, when he was going to raise taxes on everyone but anyone making under 400,000, I don't know about you, but ever since they did that, I've had property tax raise every single year. Taxes have gone up. HOAs have gone up. They're clearly lying. They clearly don't understand. They're lawyers. Why are lawyers trying to run the economy? Why are lawyers trying to do managerial positions like CEOs? They're lawyers.
Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And
it's so funny. Like, she says that people need all these tax credits for their kids. They act like there's no such thing as a baby shower. I literally got all my stuff for my kids with a baby shower. I didn't see any tax credit. It all came from a baby shower. I mean, I think that she's just full of it here. You're just, saying what people want to hear.
we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share.
This is the biggest lie Democrat talking point that I've ever heard. Literally, billionaires and massive corporations, they pay the most in taxes and get the most tax deductions, but they still pay the most. This is just a talking point. It's not real. So she wants to give all these taxes. The middle class is the biggest class. That's why they call it 1%. There's 1% that are billionaires. The middle class is the biggest class. So when you tax the middle class, you get the most money. So she's completely lying about this. So she wants to cut taxes, but she wants to spend a whole bunch of money. You know what that means? Inflation.
I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits. Part of my plan for the economy is investing in new industries in a way that we have active partnership with the private sector. I've worked with the private sector my entire career. Even as vice president, working with some of the biggest banks and biggest tech companies to increase by billions of dollars the money going into community banks to increase access to capital for small businesses. Why do those biggest corporations and CEOs do that? Because they know those kinds of investments, like in our small businesses, in startups and entrepreneurs, actually strengthens America's economy overall, and everyone benefits. So this is not about bilking anybody, but it is certainly about saying, let's make sure that we create opportunities for everyone to grow wealth. I believe that it is not sufficient, and it should not be our goal to just make sure everyone is working. That should be the baseline. That should be a given.
You know what grows wealth? Not frivolous spending. removing Amazon, removing Netflix, driving all the time, eating out. These are the things that cause massive wealth gaps. The middle class and the lower class, they don't know how to save money. They don't know how to stop spending. They just have to stop spending. Spending is a habit now. Like, people are bored because they can't spend. You got to stop spending.
And let's create an economy where people have the ability to buy a home, to start a business, to take a nice vacation from time to time, right?
For people who want to buy a home, yes, getting a $25,000 kicker would be great. But it's not just affording a home. We don't have enough in this country.
I'm so sorry. The $25,000 kicker, if she gives $25,000 to first-time home buyers, that's just going to increase the inflation of the housing prices by $25,000. It's very simple, but she doesn't get it. Again, a lawyer.
Absolutely right.
And one of the main problems are regulations and rules, strict rules at a local level. How does the federal government cut through all that red tape and get down to, the suburbs of Pittsburgh and say, we're going to have to build some affordable housing here? How do you connect the two?
So you're absolutely right. So across our country, people rightly are concerned about the cost of housing. So it's home ownership, to your point. We need more supply. That is, without any question, part of the solution. Creating more supply under my plan includes creating tax incentives to work with the private sector and home builders. Part of my goal and the plan would be to create 3 million new housing units for rent and for ownership by the end of my first term. It includes also what we must do to cut red tape. You're absolutely right. It takes far too long and there's too much bureaucracy associated with home building. And I say that as a devout public servant. I know that we have.
I hate it when people who take advantage of the system and who are actually terrible call themselves public servants. I cannot stand that. If you're a public servant, why are you getting paid? Like, you're not serving anyone. And I promise you, if she got into office, she would never, ever, ever cut red tape for housing. Because government loves red tape. That's how they make money.
To reduce the red tape and speed up what we need to do around building. And that is going to require working from the federal level with state and local governments. And it's going to be different in different places, depending on the needs of that community, the needs of that local government, that municipality, but working in consultation and coordination, and also around incentives that we can create. For example, some of the work is going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars, and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing for working people.
Then let me ask you a business that matters a lot to this town.
Yeah.
U.S. Steel.
Yeah.
Before they get into that, there's nothing in the Constitution about providing housing. The federal government has nothing to do with housing. Should have nothing to do, I should say. That's all state.
Right? When you think Pennsylvania, when you think Pittsburgh, you got the Liberty Bell in Philly, and you got U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
A Japanese company wants to buy them. You are opposed to this idea. Many people are. But if the deal doesn't go through, they have said people could lose jobs, they could close mills, they could leave the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, that is like moving the Liberty Bell to Newark. So which is more important?
It's most important that we maintain America's ability to have American manufacturing of steel by American workers.
So I've heard about this, and for some reason the U.S. Steel isn't doing too well, and that, like they said, the Japanese are trying to buy it, but they're not trying to move the plant. They're merging. So what she's saying is the steel is going to be made, the steel will still be made here in America by American workers. But for some reason, the U.S. Steel Corporation is failing. And if this Japanese company doesn't acquire them, then they'll have to shut down. So she thinks that just because the Japanese buy it, that no longer it will be here. But that's not the case. Like, nothing is moving. And I think actually they said that they were going to make another plant. So that's actually more jobs. So she's just wrong again on all of this. Like, if the Japanese buy that, the workers keep their jobs, and actually production will increase. Fucking.
For a number of reasons, which includes, again, back to the point of growing our economy and how I think about the economy overall, investing in new industries. There is not a new industry that I can imagine that is not going to require steel as a manufacturing of steel as a fundamental part of what it accomplishes. And having American workers in an American company manufacturing that steel for those new industries is going to be critically important, not only in terms of our economy, but also in the context of national security. Most people now realize if we didn't before the pandemic and the strain on supply chains and an over-reliance on foreign manufacturing, that we have to be intentional about U.S.-based manufacturing. And of the products that we have to prioritize, steel is one of them. And that's always going to be my priority.
So she sits here and talks about national security. Then why are they letting all these foreign diplomats buy up all this land around military bases and nuclear installations? Like, you don't hear anything about that. Look up Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil goes into it. He went into it on Joe Rogan. Like, all these Chinese people are buying land, all these companies and stuff. She wants to talk about national security for a Japanese buying steel and keeping it here. The steel company. Increasing manufacturing. She's so full of shit.
Steel workers matter in this country. Unions matter.
Yes.
In 2016, Donald Trump connected with unions. He saw them. There was an emotional connection. But what he didn't do was deliver policy. In the last 4 years, we have seen huge wins in this country for unions, but not all unions have gotten behind you. I want to understand, when the Teamsters decided not to endorse you, what was their reasoning? What are they looking for?
Well, let me go back to our just previous conversation. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the steelworkers and almost every other major union in America, because I stand by workers and I stand by the importance of being able to join a union and to understand the benefit and the value of unions. And I understand the importance of investing in new industries and working actively with the private sector to grow our economy.
But I'm asking because there's this idea we want something more from her. What is it?
Well, here's the thing, that back to your point about previous election cycles, Donald Trump made a whole lot of promises that he did not meet, and one would argue broke. Look at Lordstown. He said he was going to...
Don't sell your homes.
Yeah, don't sell your homes. And what happened? It shut down. Outsourcing under Donald Trump. His policies that are about putting, tens to hundreds of % tariffs.
John Deere.
Yes. Yes. So part of the challenge, and I don't disagree that it's a challenge, got to earn the vote of everybody, is reminding people of fact, regardless of what somebody says in a small rally somewhere. And I think that's really important. And that's part of what I'm doing in this campaign, is to remind people, just like here in Pittsburgh, of the reality of who has stood with union labor, who stands for American manufacturing, who stands for American jobs.
Can I ask you about tariffs? Because you just...
Unions are actually bad because they actually cause prices. Because as of late, unions always... If the worker has a crazy demand and they don't meet that, they go on strike. So production goes down. And then if the company folds and gives the worker that demand, right, then prices have to go up to pay for what the worker is asking for. Instead of it just being workers do what they're paid to do, unions cause all this extra fluff to be given to the worker. Unions cause higher prices, period.
Just mentioned it. It's not just with one company. Donald Trump's sort of big idea is this broad-based tariffs across the board. You and many others have said that would be not only disastrous, but it would be a direct tax on the American consumer.
It would be a sales tax on the American people. The independent economists have already measured this by the sales tax of doing a 20% tariffs on all imports that he has described would be a 20% sales tax, in essence, on basic necessities for the average American worker, average American family, totaling almost $4,000 a year. That is no small matter. Here in Pittsburgh, when I'm talking to a group of folks who work here, who live here, and when they hear it might be $4,000 more a year for them, look, people can't afford that.
But tariffs aren't unique to President Trump. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's actually looking to potentially implement more. Where do you come out on? Is there a good tariff, a bad tariff?
Well, part of it is you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board, and that's part of the problem with Donald Trump. Frankly, I'm going to, and I say this in all sincerity, he's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues.
They could easily remove the income tax and pay for everything that they needed through sales tax. But they're not going to do that.
And one must be serious and have a plan, and a real plan that's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment, what will be the economic impact on everyday people. And when you look at my plans, you will see what those benefits will be. $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. You know what that means? Then you're creating the ability of that working person to build intergenerational wealth.
No, you're creating
doing the
inflation.
work of a $6,000 child tax credit, doing the work of a $50,000 tax deduction for first-time small businesses, startups, because right now—
That's a real plan.
It's a real plan, because right now, and again, it's about paying attention to the detail and being serious about it. I'm serious about my enthusiasm and my for small businesses and my belief in what they will do as part of America's economic engine.
On Friday, sorry.
So looking at the fact that right now the tax deduction is $5,000, nobody in this year of our Lord 2024 can start a small business with $5,000. Very few can. So extending it to $50,000 tax deduction for startups to generate the innovation and the ambition.
That's kind of a little gotcha here, because she's talking about a tax deduction. So you have to already spend all of this money. That's why it's called a business plan. You have a business plan, you get everything in order, and you say, hey, we can do this. And then at the end, hey, maybe you can get the tax deduction. But you have to already start the business. So she's already full of it. People are going to start the business already, and they have to be in business already to even start to get the deduction. It's not like she's giving you a check up front. Hey, here's 50 grand. Just go ahead and start. It's not what happens. So she's misleading, at least on that.
Of the ideas that are present and among us, but need the fuel to be able to actually achieve the goal.
His plan is not serious when you lay it out like that, but a serious problem over the last few years has been inflation. Luckily, it's cooling, but prices are still high.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You said you want to take this on by going after those who engage in price gouging.
Yeah.
But as somebody who supports free markets, who's a capitalist, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in this zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
So just to be very frank, I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people. And as Attorney General, I saw this happen.
There's no evidence
In
of
the
that.
midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it, where those few companies, not the majority, not most, but those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them.
Who are they?
And that is part of
She can't name
a
them.
much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
Housing will
On
not come down.
Friday, you are going to the border. Immigration is complicated. One of the issues is an economic one. And no one is eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. And I'm glad not to be talking about that. But there are people there that are stressed, that feel that they're at capacity.
They are.
Communities around the country that have legal immigration, many have said
They just need to stick
we're
that
at
in there.
capacity. And many feel like the government has said to them, well, adapt, sit down, be quiet. This is how it is. What would a Harris administration do for those communities who've taken in many, many legal immigrants, but are at capacity?
Well, first of all, we do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill that would have put 1,500 new border agents on the border to help those hardworking border agents who are there right now working around the clock. Would have put more money into stemming the flow of fentanyl, which is killing Americans around our country and devastating communities. Would have put more resources into our ability to prosecute transnational criminal organizations, which in my career I've prosecuted. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told him to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote. He killed a bill that would have actually been a solution because he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And that's part of what needs to be addressed.
So why didn't she fix the problem 3 years ago? They just put this out there during an election year because you're failing. You had this whole entire time to try to fix the problem. It's because you don't want to fix the problem. You're lying to everyone, and they can see right through it.
Yes, and my pledge is that when elected president, if the American people will have me, I will bring that bill back and I will sign it into law. And we need a comprehensive plan.
First off, she said that the elections, that the immigration system is broken. There's nothing broken about the immigration system. You're just letting in illegals. There is a system in place to go get your citizenship. You take a test. Okay? I don't know the exact thing, but I know that you have to take a test. But you're just letting people in. Letting people in is not immigration. That's illegal immigration. And you're talking about fixing it as just adding more border security. I mean, they could just add more border security. Why don't you just do it? You're in office right now. Why don't you just do it? Why do you want Congress to do it? Just do it.
That includes what we need to do to fortify not only our border, but deal with the fact that we also need to create pathways for people to earn citizenship.
Then I want to just ask you about a little job and a big job.
Okay.
The first one, just a fact check. Okay. Because your opponent
There is
almost
no little
every
job.
day. Okay.
There's no such thing as a little job.
Okay, fair. Because your opponent almost every day seems to be talking about this. So I just want to ask you yes or no. At any point in your life, have you served 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's? Yes or no? That's it.
I have.
Okay, now the other job. But
it was not a small job. Like, I did the fries. I mean, yes,
okay, for a
but
small
I did.
period of time. But then let me ask you about a big job.
But to your point, if you don't mind, before you get to the big job, there's a part of the reason I even talk about having worked at McDonald's is because there are people who work at McDonald's in our country who are trying to raise a family. I worked there as a student. I was a kid.
And that's what you should be doing.
Who worked there trying to raise families and pay rent on that. And I think part of the difference between me and my opponent includes our perspective on the needs of the American people.
If you are sitting there being a McDonald's cashier trying to raise a family, 3 kids, a wife, and pay for a house. That is not going to happen. Why? Because you should only get paid so much. The task of being a cashier or being a burger flipper only pays so much. Period. That's it. If you gave someone $50,000 a year for being a burger flipper, then every other job that really requires skill has to go up. It's called entry level for a reason. She just said that she did it as a student. That's the kind of job that job does. So if you're sitting here, unfortunately, being lazy enough to only do that job and you don't have the skills to get on, well, you have to work harder and get a skill that pays you more. Or work up through the system, become a manager. That's another skill, but you have to go up. You can't just, this is what the thing that Democrats, like, it blows my mind. They want you to do like a janitor job or something, and then they want you to be able to feed your kids, pay for a house, pay for a car, do all that, when it doesn't. That's not how it works, because anyone can be a janitor. So it pays the lowest. When it's just labor and not skill, and anyone can do it, that's what it is. There is no such thing as a living wage. I hate that. Flipping a burger pays so much. That's it. Family, driving a car as a cabbie or something, that pays so much. Uber pays so much. You have to do the jobs that make more money. Period. I hate that argument.
And what our responsibility then is to meet those needs.
Then to the big job. You have laid out policy in great detail.
Yeah.
That is
But the
just
economy
a
is
lie
an
right there.
unpredictable beast.
What is
And you are running for a job that takes extraordinary instinct and guts.
Yeah.
What's the last time you had to make a gut decision? This here is very prescribed, very controlled.
Yeah. Probably the biggest gut decision I've made most recently is to choose my running mate.
Oh my God, the tampon guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
There were lots of good, incredible candidates. And ultimately, that came down to a gut decision.
So this absolutely lets you know that her gut is full of crap. Because Tim Walz is like literally just as left, if not more left than what she is. I mean, he's a complete socialist communist. And woke. Put tampon in the boys' bathrooms. Let his city burn down until the very end during the BLM riots. Like, complete dirtbag. This was her gut. No. I mean, we are in for a real hurting and awakening if she's elected.
I know I'm out of time, but then I just want to ask you a question from my gut.
Okay.
Because today we're talking about we're talking about the economy.
Yeah.
And people don't think often about reproductive rights being an economic issue, but it is. A woman's ability to plan her future, her education, her life. Today, and in the last few days, Donald Trump keeps talking about it and how in overturning Roe v. Wade, he helped women. He protected women. He says they're miserable today, they're poorer today, they're more vulnerable today. He said he will be the protector of women if elected. Can you respond to that?
So Donald Trump is also the person who said women should be punished
That never
for
happened.
exercising a decision that they rightly should be able to make about their own body and their future.
Trump never said any such
So
thing.
I think we would all agree that as a result of that perspective that he has about women, he also then chose 3 members of the United States Supreme Court who did as he intended, undid the protections of Roe v. Wade, and now in state after state, you see laws being passed that do punish women.
There's nothing in the Constitution about abortion. The federal government has nothing to do with that. This is the thing that Democrats do. They try to make the federal government like in every point of your life. There's nothing in the Constitution about that. If Hillary would have got elected instead of Trump, she would have put 3 crazy Democrats on the court, and we would have lost all kinds of rights. Taking that issue and coming back to the states is exactly what the founders wanted. State issues, not federal. Federal government is supposed to keep you safe from war with the army. And I mean, that's pretty much it. The federal government only does like 3-4 things. States take care of the rest of that, and they're supposed to govern themselves. That's what Trump did.
Laws that, I mean, most recently, a heartbreaking story resulted in a young woman dying, a mother of a 6-year-old. Heart-wrenching stories. And that's for the listener, much less their family.
This is some more gaslighting.
So, look, I think the thing about Donald Trump is that, you know, I don't think the women of America need him to say he's going to protect them. The women of America need him to trust them.
Can we trust you?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
I am not perfect.
There's no way.
But I will tell you, I'm always going to put the needs of the people first.
Madam Vice President, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how good that was. Was it better than the CNN interview? It seemed like it was about the same. It seemed like Dana Bash helped her a lot more, but I mean, it's still really, really bad. I mean, I don't know how much more of these interviews that she's going to do, but she hasn't really given any policy. Again, just the same script that she's been saying over and over and over again, and more Trump bashing over and over and over again. So let's see if people are convinced by this one. I'm not. Oh, it was also pre-recorded again. You know, she's so weak. It was pre-recorded. So, I mean, and she got help from the interviewer like multiple times. Like, interviewer saying she laid out this plan with extreme detail, and literally all she said was she was going to give some tax breaks. That's it. So, yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed some commentary, and we'll see you on the next one.